In this video, we're covering the conditioning phase, which is 4 weeks long. And the purpose of this video is to help you better understand the format for this PDF file. You'll notice here on the left-hand side, these are the exercises that you'll be doing for day 1. And then we scroll down. These are the exercises that you'll be doing for day 2. And the exercises for day 3. And when we read this from left to right, your first exercise is the upright rows. You'll do 3 sets of 10. And then you'll move on to back squat, and you'll do 3 sets of 10. Incline press and so forth. Make sure that you're taking between 1 and 3 minutes rest in between each set. And make sure you're also writing down how much weight you're actually doing. This way you can chart your progress. Hopefully you'll see a trend from left to right, where you notice that you're increasing the amount of weight you're doing as you progress into week 4, especially with the back squat here, because you're going to be doing some testing in week 4, because we need to know how strong you actually are for weeks 5 through 12. And so when you do the max testing, try to follow this format as best as you can. And these percentages are based off what you think you can do. So maybe you're thinking, I can do 300 pounds. Well, 40%, start off with 40% of 300, and progress to 60 to 80 and so forth. And let's say your math is wrong, or maybe you thought you could do 300, but realistically you could only do 200. Then when you get closer to here, it's going to get really hard. And so what I'd recommend is following a 1 rep max chart, which is also included with your materials. And basically, when you get closer to here, and you don't feel like you're going to make it to these percentages based on what you thought you could do, when you get here, you can just start hammering out quite a few reps. And as long as it's less than 12, you can follow this chart here, the 1 rep max chart. So let's say you end up doing 150 pounds and you did it 8 times. So you did it 8 times, and you go down, find 150, which is down here. And that means that your max potential was 190 pounds. But let's say you did 150 and you couldn't do 8 times, you could only do it 7 times. Then you're actually here. Since you did it only 7 times, you're down a few pounds. But that's how you read this 1 rep max chart. And then once you have a pretty good idea of what your max potential is, or what your max is, write that figure down, because you'll use it when we get into phase 2, as you can see here. So you could write your figures down. Like, let's say maybe your actual is 225 pounds. You put it right here. And then this is 9 reps at 60% of 225. And then this is 8 reps at 70%, 75%, and so forth. And then you'll notice that the percentages increase as the reps decrease. And so that's how you read that for phase 2. And then make sure that when you are doing all of these exercises that you're using good form. And when you're getting into the max testing, or even when you're not max testing, feel free to use a spotter. But when you're doing the max testing for the back squat, definitely make sure you're using a spotter and using sound techniques as well. I'm going to skip over day 2 because it's pretty much the same format as day 1. The only thing that's different here when we look at day 3 is that you'll do 3 sets of 6 high pulls. And then when you get to week 2, you'll do 2 sets of 6, and then you'll have 1 set of 4 power cleans starting from the hang position. And what a power clean is from the hang position, meaning that you're starting from the hang, which means that the bar is somewhere above the knee, and between above the knee and mid-thigh. And when it's referred to as a power clean, this means that you're catching it where your knees are 90 degrees or greater. Some may refer to this as the power position, but when you catch the bar in the catch phase, you will not be deeper than 90 degrees, because it would no longer be a power clean, it would just be a regular clean. But anyways, for week 2 you get one opportunity to play around with it. Make sure you watch the video It is very highly technical. I recommend trying to take as many notes as you can, and as you do it, it'll be quite a bit of a learning process also. Make sure you're using proper equipment, and what I mean by that is that you want to make sure that you use a bar that is straight and is not bent, because if you have a bent bar and you have enough weight on it, you potentially could break your wrist in the catch phase whenever you're doing a power clean or any sort of clean for that matter. Make sure that the bar you are using is an Olympic bar that has caps that are on the ends that are able to rotate. So when you put the weight on the ends and then you clamp them in, the bar should be able to still spin no matter what. So when you catch, you have to roll your elbows underneath, and that bar needs to be able to spin with the weights on each side. If the bar is bent, once again, you could hurt yourself, so make sure you're using a good bar. Make sure you have the proper Olympic plates that are on the sides. They're rubberized, and then make sure that they are clamped in, because you do not want them to spin right off. And also make sure that anytime that you are bringing the bar or the weight back down to the rack or the ground, that you are not throwing it. And then when you're doing it, make sure you're doing it in a safe area where there is nobody is around you, because in the event that you have to get away from the weight, because maybe you're not underneath it enough and you have to ditch the bar, you got to be able to escape from it safely by pushing it away from you. Also, whenever you're doing your max testing or anytime you're doing any of the Olympic lifts, you should never ever use a spotter. It's very dangerous and it is not recommended. If you do, you are most likely going to get hurt, or somebody else is going to get hurt. So do not do it. But when you do move on here to the bench press and you get close to your max testing, make sure you also have a spotter for that as well. Once again, as recommended, anytime you're doing any strength training, it's always safe to have a spotter. So that is my recommendation. However, at your own risk, feel free to utilize your weight room or your strength training equipment to the best of your ability. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to make sure that it was easier for you to understand when you read from left to right. However, if this video still has not helped you out, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll try to help you out as best as I can.